Hi, I'm Laura Houck with Christ Connections to Education, and I wanted to share with you two main things. One, why I offer my educational consulting services, what motivates me, and two, the nitty gritty things about the Christian schools and the homeschooling options available to you for those of us living in the Southside area of Hampton Roads. I believe in the benefits of Christian education because I have personally received the benefits. I went through Christian school and secondary education, all the way, and also all the way up to a master's level of education. So I know what it's like to have that exposure, and it gave me a basic knowledge of God and Jesus and the love of Him and the love of His Word. I mean, I remember as a child praying to Jesus, and I know it's because of the Christian education given to me. And I'm so thankful to my parents for their sacrifices they made for me to experience that. And also because Christian education is more than academia. Public schools give you academics, but they don't give you Christian discipleship, now do they? And 5 days a week with Christian education, a child is discipled and they come to grow in the knowledge of the love of God and the love of Jesus and of His Word. And you can't really put a price tag on that. They get a biblical worldview where they can see the God behind the science, the God behind the math, the God behind the history, that God is in and through everything. And that makes learning so much more exciting. And what Christian parent would not want their child to grow in the knowledge of the love of the Lord? And also, my love for the church and for our community and for our nation motivates me more than ever. I care about the future of our country and the leadership of our country, our cities, our communities, and most of all, the leadership in the church. This generation is the future. They're going to be the ones that will lead our communities, lead our country, lead our churches. And so if we want our leadership to be Christian, then we need to invest in this generation now. If we lose this generation to the world, where will we be, right? God has given us a mandate to lead. God has given the church leadership to rule and to reign. So we got to practice ruling and reigning and right now, right? And so that's why I care about my country and I care about your children, that they will love Jesus and lead the way. And that's another motivation that I have. Mark 8:36 says, "What will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul or loses his own soul?" In this case, what would it profit your child? You see, your child can be as smart as a whip, right? They could go on and get two master's degrees, and they could do all kinds of things in academics, but if they don't know the Lord, what have they gained, right? They can have those other things, but you don't profit in your soul unless you know the Lord. And see, God cares about education. He does, but He also wants your child to know Him. And so that motivates me. I know that as parents, you have many concerns on behalf of your children. You want them to do well in school, to develop their talents and their skills. You want them one day to go to college and get a good job. I can understand that. But you know what? The Lord knows what your needs are as a family. He knows what your child is going to need, and He was preparing them today for the future. But just as the word said through Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these other things that He knows you need will be added. See, so if your child becomes a kingdom seeker, then the Lord will add these other things. But you have to put first things first. And so we can relegate that to the church, but it's all been relegated to you as a parent. You're responsible for raising your child. You're responsible for their education. And discipleship is at home as well as in church or in a Christian school. It's a continuation of it. And so that's why I say seek the Christian education. It'll be so much more rewarding and prepare your children to face the future. You know, kids today, they face things that we never had to face as a child, things we never even heard about, would never even discuss. Well, it's talked about today. And how do you prepare those children? Well, they have to be prepared through knowing God, because God is spirit and truth, and He's the way, the truth, and the life. He's the one that brings truth in every situation. So if you don't know the Lord, how will you know the truth? To discern between good and evil. So that's why it is so important to seek out Christian education. Now, when it comes to schools, and I were to ask you, do you know how many schools are in our area, Southside Hampton Roads? How many schools are there? And you would probably be thinking, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5? Actually, there are 50. Yes, 50 schools on the south side. So that's Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth. So the cities on the south side, right, Portsmouth, Norfolk, Suffolk. Yes, I covered them all. So those are the cities that I had researched. And so we have a lot of options to us. We also have 10 major homeschool organizations, and there's a lot of co-ops as well, hidden co-ops in people's homes or other localities. So there's hybrid approaches to homeschooling. You can teach at home and then use online curriculum. Do you know there's major Christian universities that offer K through 12 education through virtual learning, online or on demand? And so there's a lot of hybrid approaches to homeschooling than you might think. There are people that work a job or work from home or have their own business and they still homeschool. It's amazing because there's a lot of flexibility in homeschooling. Now, when it comes to the schools, with those 50 schools, they have been around for like decades. We had schools that date back to like the 1950s and 60s. So that's a great reputation to have. They're an anchor in the community. You can trust them with your child's education. And of those 50, some are really large, well-known schools with like multiple campus sites. They may have campuses in different cities, down to the smaller schools that are inside a church building, but it's been part of their ministry for decades. And they still offer great academics. So that's why you have a tuition range that can go from like $4,000 to $15,000. And that can depend on how big the school is, or whether it's the less overhead in the hidden schools and the churches, or what grade level. So there's a lot of variance in tuition. All schools are not the same. So you may be surprised of just how affordable schools are, and that how many offer financial aid. Or maybe the smaller schools don't offer all the bells and whistles, but they're so affordable that you probably wouldn't miss the bells and whistles. It all depends on what you want, what your child needs, what your family's needs are. So that's why they're not all the same. And there's a wide range. Some schools offer multiple sports, and others offer a few. Some offer extracurricular activities and music and drama. There's after-school clubs. There's STEAM programs, STEM programs. They offer so much. Like I said, you can get the Cadillac version of Christian education to the basic model where it's just strictly academic and maybe PE. But those kids can still go on to excel in life without all the other things. It just depends on what's important, right? So that's why there's a lot to consider when choosing a Christian school. And some schools are different. They may be the traditional model of, like Becca curriculum or whatever curriculum, or the classical model with the trivium of where they learn rhetoric and logic, and they learn the languages of Latin, and they learn to be able to defend themselves and oration. It's really incredible. So there's different models within the Christian schools. They're not all the same. So, and when it comes to then homeschooling, did you know in Virginia there's 60,000 homeschooled students? And I'm sure that's growing because ever since COVID, homeschooling has just grown exponentially. And people are just, they're tired of what the public schools have been offering. They don't like what they see. And so they go to Christian schools or they homeschool and they never look back. And so, the tutorial approach of homeschool has been tried and true and tested for so many years. The students excel on their ACT and SAT scores. They get scholarships. They go on to college. And so, homeschooling is extremely successful. It cannot really be debated. Now, another thing is, did you know that, especially for the younger children, if you homeschool, you can do it in little as 4 hours. It's not an all-day endeavor. In fact, homeschooling is not replication of public school at home. Not at all. It's a totally different model of education. It's tutorial. It's more relaxed. It's designed with curriculum for your child's needs in mind, flexible to your schedule, and 4 hours or less, you can teach that child all they need for the day. The rest of the day is yours or your family time or your job. So, and then of course, you're teaching your child to be able to be a learner, a self-directed learner. So where they can do their stuff and you can be, working, answering your email or whatever. So it doesn't require you to be with them for hours and hours and hours. They can do what is needed. So that's something to consider as well. And it is a sacrifice, I am sure. Now, I've already invested all this time researching it. So even though I told you what you might need to consider, that's an overwhelming task. It took me months to research all that I did so that I can make your life easier as a parent. You don't need to spend months and hours and hours. You're lucky to get home from work, to be able to put food on the table, help your child with their homework, and before you know it, the day is gone. So much less doing all this research. It's easy just to kind of put that off to maybe when you think you might have more free time. So why not come to me? Because that's what my services are about. I did the research. You could do the assessment that's offered online for free, and then we can talk. And I can come back to you with what I think are the best recommendations that will meet your family's needs. And it's unbiased on my part. I don't show favoritism over one school or option over another. I'm going to come back to you and say, hey, the boxes that you check that are important to your family, these seem to check those boxes. And so you can be assured that life can be short-circuited on that journey. And it would be my privilege because I care about your children. You're my brothers and sisters in Christ, and so are your children. And their success is my success. I want life to be easier for you. And God is so good because He can make a way for your family. All things are possible for those who believe. Nothing is impossible for God. He loves your family. He wants your kids to know Him. And He can make a way where it seems to be no way for your family. So trust Him through the process. It's a faith journey. It was a faith journey for me to even do this service, to do the research. And it's a faith journey for your family as well. And I want to be a blessing to you. Thank you for listening. I hope that you will consider all this and pray about it, and then call me, contact me. I'm here for you and your family. Thank you so much. God bless.